All right. Welcome to the Virtual Dental Offices podcast, where we dive into the world of technology, innovation, automation, and remote work to help dental offices and small businesses thrive. I'm your host, Justin Scott. I'm the founder and CEO of VDO, or Virtual Dental Offices. Our company specializes in hiring and training dental team members from around the globe, ensuring that dental offices and small businesses have access to the top quality for productive team members at a reasonable price. In today's episode, we're joined by my incredible guest, Ethan King, who is a multifaceted American entrepreneur with business spanning across apparel, fitness, e-commerce, real estate. He's a dynamic speaker. Ethan has shared his journey from a striving artist to the CEO of multiple seven-figure brands, and has also served as the Atlanta chapter president of Entrepreneurs Organization. He's the author of the insightful book, Wealth Beyond Money, which unlocking the 6 dimensions of success for richness in every area of your life. Furthermore, Ethan is an original member of one of the most renowned EO forums in history, Monsters and Monuments. So without further ado, let's dive into our conversation with Ethan King and explore his entrepreneur journey, insights, and experiences. So
Yeah, excited to be here, Justin. Let's do it.
cool, man. Well, let's start just by talking a little bit about you and your journey and what did it take to get to where you're at?
Oh man, it's been a long road. So I've been an entrepreneur for 22 years now, which is crazy. So long path. I don't even know where to start to tell you my journey. But I started out, I wanted to be an artist when I was a kid, like drawing and painting. That's what I wanted to do for a career. I don't know if you knew that, but my parents told me that artists don't make any money until after they're dead. So my whole life, if I sat down for therapy, my whole driver for success has probably been to prove them wrong. So a couple of wayward turns, and I ended up, at first I was a graphic designer. Oh, well, let's back up. Before that, I got in a lot of trouble as a kid, and then I ended up working at a strip club, taking out the trash. Then the DJs found out that I could do graphic design, so I did the posters and flyers for the strip club. And then I got carjacked, which kind of made me had a wake-up call, and I left that whole lifestyle alone. And I started doing graphic design for some bigger name clients like Tyler Perry and McDonald's and some bigger corporations, doing freelance design. And then a school project that I had started with my girlfriend called Stuff for Greeks, which is where we make fraternity and sorority paraphernalia, like for the Greeks on campus. That ended up becoming a real company because we started getting orders from people across the country that we didn't know. And still to this day, now 20 years later, Stuff for Greeks is still one of the top providers online of custom Greek paraphernalia. And then we opened a retail store called Zeus's Closet, where we do screen printing and embroidery. We have 2 physical locations in the Atlanta area, and we have a bunch of different e-commerce properties. So we're focusing on expanding that brand. So for fun, I speak to entrepreneurs and I help them grow. And I'm glad we're here to talk about automation because people ask me, well, how do you do all of that different stuff? Well, automation is a big part of it. And in fact, just before we got on this call, I was working on some automation. So I'm happy to talk about what I'm working on right now also. But yeah, it's fun. A lot of people say focus on one thing and one thing only, but I tend to think that that's kind of boring, and I like to just try all different things because I believe life is short. So I explore all of my different passions and try to execute them as quickly as possible and really help get results for other people because that's what drives me these days.
Very cool. Yeah, I feel the same way. Instead of just working on my main business, sometimes I feel like things take forever and you're waiting on something to develop, or we're trying to hire people, or we've got some big strategy over the quarter. And I kind of like being able to work on different things so that I feel like I'm constantly being productive. I think one of my biggest issues is feeling like things aren't moving fast enough.
Right.
Do you feel like that?
Oh man, totally. I feel like that all the time. I don't know, man. Maybe it's just once after I turned 40, I just felt this sense of urgency, man. I just want everything to happen now. Nothing happens fast enough. Maybe that's part of it.
You mean 30 or? Good to look young. I think we look younger than 40. So
we do, man. Yeah, especially when we shave. But
yeah, I need to shave. That's for sure. My fiance is always on to me about that.
Shaved off. Mine is gray too. But running, working out, man, do all of it to look young, stay young, and have that energy. Because if you don't have the energy and the ability to do stuff, it really puts a damper on life. And I like to have fun. You do too.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the ways that helps me to have more fun is when I don't have so much to worry about at the office. All of this goes back to that. How do we have more fun? How do we enjoy life more? Well, one way we don't do that is we have a bunch of stuff that we have to worry about at the office, or things that aren't getting done, or have to spend the entire weekend working just to keep up and catch up with stuff. We'll talk a little bit about the things we're working on currently to help us do that more. But I'll tell you, for me, one of the projects that I'm currently working on is I'm centralizing all of our ordering. We do a lot of ordering, dental offices, supplies, and I could easily just have Henry Schein, which is the largest dental vendor. I could have a salesperson comes in and she'll do all of it for me, but I'll wind up paying double per month or per year or whatever in costs. And then if I just order things myself or search around for better prices and stuff like that. But I don't really have time to do that. So most people just say, hey, let's let the rep do it all. And so what I'm doing, I've tried to get my staff to do it, but they're so busy during the day, it's hard for them to do it. Not to mention I pay them top dollar to spend time with patients. And that's what really adds the most value. Right. So what we're doing is now the process for them is when we're low on something, they do an inventory once a week. And if they're low on something, they just take a picture and they send it to WhatsApp. And I've got a virtual assistant that's in the Philippines that I'm training to order everything. So when she orders, she goes to 6 or 7 different websites, finds the best price, and then orders it for us. It's basically just simplifying the workload for my high value assistants. I know I'm going to get the best price because I've got someone that's focused on that. I couldn't afford to hire someone here in the States that would just completely focus on that. I could, but it's much more cost effective to hire somebody in, say, the Philippines or India or somewhere to do those things for me. And then I know that it gets done well. And then they do my accounts payable as well, pay all my bills and things like that. And they put it in nice little charts and stuff for me so that we can just keep up with all of it. Oh, so yeah, that's really, I'm excited about that. It's been a long time coming, but that's one of the things that I'm currently working on. Tell me a little bit about some of the projects you're working on to simplify, streamline, and automate all of your businesses.
Man, where do I start? That's a great story. First of all, and we're having a similar issue with our purchasing. And I like the approach you're taking because we had a lady, Joyce, that was with us for years working part-time remotely. And we would do a similar thing. Like we would post the stuff that we need to be ordered. And she was great about finding the best price. But she recently retired. So we're in the process of replacing her. So even though we are in a dental office, might need to reach out to you guys to help us with that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with virtual teams, I'm focused on dental because I know dental really well and I know a lot of ways to apply virtual teams. But I mean, there's a ton of people that you and I both know that have small businesses, and virtual assistants is kind of one of those trending things that a lot of people are using.
I mean, these are people. I mean, they're making a good income for where they live. It just so happens that it doesn't make economic sense to pay the wages in America to do those things that someone else can do just as well, even better, and be earning a great living in their country doing the exact same thing. So yeah, in our business, our purchasing deals with the apparel. So my main business, Zeus's Closet, we're like a tattoo shop for your clothes. So we do embroidery, screen printing. Sometimes people bring us in their own items and we'll customize them for them. I think your company, you guys have brought scrubs to us before and we've customized it with your logo. But we have some people who just want to get the whole gamut from us. Like, no, we want you to provide the scrubs. We want you to provide the jackets. So we have to source, and we have like 80 different vendors that we get apparel from. So we always want to make sure that we're getting the best price on it, that it's going to get to us quickly. There's going to be a quality product. So that purchasing is a big part of it. So we're in the process of documenting our processes and systems when it comes to purchasing. And so we have to kind of layer on to what you guys are doing, because it's a similar process, but we have on there, well, here's the top vendor that we want to get this particular jacket from. If that size and color is out of stock, then go to this vendor. If that's out, then go to this vendor. So we have this SOP that the person ordering can easily, like, we found that if you remove as much thought as possible and just make it as precise and document all of your systems and processes, and the easier and specific you can make it, then the better they'll perform for you. We can talk about automation, because that's what I've been doing today. Of course, ChatGPT is the big hot word right now. Everybody's talking about AI and ChatGPT. I was on a Zoom call earlier today talking about using ChatGPT to write your book. So when I wrote my book last year, ChatGPT wasn't around. So I actually did it the hard way. Like, I actually used my hands and typed on a keyboard.
Sounds so archaic.
So archaic, right? So I said, well, let me jump on this call and learn how people are using ChatGPT. And it is amazing what you could do. Like, the guy gave an example. He said, I have an idea for a children's book about two squirrels who got a divorce, and now they have to live in separate trees, and they're co-parenting. And ChatGPT like wrote the whole children's book.
The whole book? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Then he went into Dolly or Midjourney and had it create images of squirrels that looked like they were drawn by children. And then he had artwork to use for the children's book.
Wow.
And then, by the time you do that, all you have to do is export a PDF, and you can upload it to Amazon. And then all you have to do is market the book. And you can use ChatGPT to help you with your marketing prompts and generating your Instagram captions and things like that, so you can run your ads on Instagram and Facebook. I mean, it is amazing. It cuts the workload in more than half. I mean, it cuts it by 90% when you implement this automation. So I've been playing around a lot with that, because I do have 6 more books lined up, and I'm going to do it the smart way this time. But the thing with ChatGPT, because this did come up on the call, is I tell people, don't just take what ChatGPT gives you, use it, and just copy paste. What you need to do, because they have all these AI checkers, and there's even rumors that Google will ping you if you use AI generated text for blogs and content on your website. It'll detect if it's AI generated, and it'll decrease your rankings. I don't know if that's 100% true. That's the rumor right now. So to get around that and to be authentic and ethically correct, which I think people should do, is it's fine to use ChatGPT to give you like an outline or to give ideas as a framework to start with, but then inject your own stories, your own anecdotes from your own life and how you came to learn those lessons, so you're not just regurgitating bland information. That makes sense?
Absolutely. I saw a video, can't remember the letters are, but they basically, Google said, they're not going, you can't just use ChatGPT just to generate a ton of content and expect it to make a difference.
Right.
And I think in the world that we live in now, that people don't read anything on the internet anymore. They surf. Now, they might read something if they think it's going to specifically give them some education on something, but most people want to learn with videos and want to learn with pictures and things like that. So I think just thinking, write it all out and that's going to be good, is going to miss a lot of the experiential stuff. But you're right. If you add experience into it, then it makes sense that would be useful. And I think adding video on top of it, and that's one of the reasons I'm starting this podcast, so that I can get some of my ideas down and my experiences down, so that I can continue to grow from a marketing perspective for both my businesses and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, with the video, I think that's actually the most efficient way to start. You can take a transcript of this video when we're done. You can load it into ChatGPT. And as far as getting the transcript, you can use things like Descript. That's a good free or cheap app you can use. You can use otter.ai, and it can actually transcribe your Zoom calls while you're on them. However you get the transcript, there's lots of ways. You can use rev.com. But once you get that transcript, you can load it into ChatGPT and ask it to write a blog article for you, summarize this call, and write a blog article for me. And then now you have a blog article. you can take that same transcript and say, okay, write a LinkedIn post for me, write a Facebook post for me, write 10 tweets to promote this blog post. All from this transcript, you can generate all of this stuff, right? It's mind blowing. You use the video as your pillar content, and then you have all of your social media done by using this transcript.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. We're using it for press releases. We're using it for for newsletters, or to even put together ideas about what to talk about on the podcast. Now, it's not always perfect, so you have to use your own brain, but it gives you a good starting point. Yeah. Where then you can take that and then you can say, okay, well, I like this or I don't like this, and whatever else. Yeah. Like you were talking about writing a book, and I'm writing a book for virtual dental offices as well, about kind of my experience and story about developing my office and using virtual teams. I've got this book, Write a Must Read by AJ Harper. I don't know if you've read that book.
I got to check that out.
But it's just like, how do you write a book? I could write a book. In fact, I've already gotten ChatGPT to write my book for me. But is it something that someone's going to read? I don't know. But the question is, how do you write a must-read book? Yeah. And what I've learned from this is the most important aspect of writing a must-read book is asking yourself, what does the reader want to hear? You know, if you write it for yourself, it's not as likely to be someone's top 3 books of all time. But if you write it for the reader and use your experience and your stories and things in order to help answer the questions about how do we use teaching points and anecdotes and things like that in order to help to teach a point and to convince people of whatever you think, which typically, if there's a book written about, is something maybe a little unconventional or something a little off the beaten path or different from what the status quo is, then that becomes a lot more useful. So I'm kind of using it, but I'm also using the theory in order to kind of backfill and make, because my goal is not just to write a little crappy book just so I can say that, hey, I'm an Amazon bestseller. I actually want to write something someone's going to want to read and say, this was helpful.
Right.
Back in the day, I read The 4-Hour Workweek with Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
And it inspired me to want to retire early, but to work a 4-hour work week, be able to live and travel freely as I want, and use things like virtual assistants, and live in places where things are less expensive but make money in the US. Yeah. That's the dream. And virtual assistants at the time, we tried actually, but it was just really tough. We didn't have voice over IP at that point in time. We didn't have WhatsApp. We didn't have a lot of the communication channels that we do today. So it's a different ball game now that they have good internet now and things like that, Yeah,
he was ahead of his time. I got to check out that book. Another good one, because what you're talking about is storytelling. That should be the goal of an author, to write a book that's actually going to change people's lives. And 4-Hour Workweek changed your life. It changed my life. People still refer to it. And that book was written before its time. It was written in 2008. Another good book about storytelling that I just recently read is called Save the Cat. Have you heard of that one?
I'm writing it down.
The guy's name, but he's a screenplay writer. It's about writing screenplays.
Okay.
So he breaks down and analyzes the most popular movies. Every movie falls into like one of 10 different genres, and he breaks down exactly how the story is arranged to make it interesting to the brain. It's a really, really fascinating book that you can apply not just to screenplays, but to anything that you're doing, whether it's a book or a video, a YouTube video or whatever, to make, because you got to tell that story. Humans are storytellers. And that's what we resonate with.
That makes me think of Russell Brunson, The Expert Secrets, that you actually turned me on to. Great book.
Another book that changes lives. Yep.
Yeah, great book. It talks a lot about different story contents and the hero's journey and all that kind of stuff. So I'm enjoying going through that.
It's a lot of fun.
We have about 8 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about, you talked about you had a remote person that was working with you. I know you have some other remote people that work for you on your teams. Tell me a little bit about what your experience you have working with remote teams and any tips or hacks you got along those lines.
Yeah, for sure. So what we did, and it's always an ongoing process, but I would tell anyone, if you're just starting the whole outsourcing thing, make a list of every task that has to happen in your company. And get granular. It's responding to customer service emails, giving people quotes, sending invoices, or doing purchasing. So we started out with a Google sheet of every single task, and then next to it, we write down, well, who is the main person who's responsible for that? And I got it from this term from Steve Jobs. He called it the DRI, who is the directly responsible individual. And if you're a small business, your name is going to be next to most of the tasks, right? That's how most of the businesses in the US are like solopreneurs or one or two employees. And that's fine. Just put your name next to it. But then take that micro task, the thing that you do every day that you hate doing, that really is just a step-by-step process and you're just probably sick of doing it. Take it and make a like 1, 2, 3 step-by-step process, and then find a person to do that one process, like very specifically. And if you can, make the compensation based on results instead of time-based pay. For example, we have a guy who does our digitizing because we have to set up our files in a very special way. We have like a proprietary way that we set up our embroidery files for this very complex jackets that we do. And we found this guy, I think he lives in Indonesia, but 8 years ago, we found him and we said, here's how you do it our way, 1, 2, 3. And we attached a video demonstrating how it's done. And we're like, can you do it in this exact way? And he said, yes. And we've been working with him ever since. And I have never even had a verbal conversation with this person. It's all over email, but he's always fast, responsive. Actually, I say he, it might even be a woman because the person's name
Why
is,
couldn't it be?
the person's name is Erely, Erely. I've never heard that name. So it could be a male, it could be a female, but we have a great relationship. He's happy with how much, he or she is happy with how much they're making. We're happy with the work, and you have lower turnover too, because they're doing that one thing and he has other clients that they're working with as well. But I think we've been that successful because we have that micro task. So I'll say chop everything you do into micro tasks and try to find one person to execute each task until you fill up that sheet with names that are other than yours. Unless you love doing it, then you can keep doing those tasks.
Yeah, I mean, the way I started doing it was the things that gave me the most stress, the things that kind of kept me up at night. For instance, when patients got angry or upset, because that reflects negatively on my business and potentially they leave bad reviews and things like that. So auditing things that potentially could go wrong, aggregating reviews and coming up with responses to those in a timely manner and things like that, which by the way, now we use ChatGPT to respond to most of our reviews for us.
Sweet.
And it does a good job. I maybe have to add a word or two in there. I used to personally do that because I didn't trust anyone else to do a good job. But now my virtual assistants, they will do that. And so I think your process is good. The only challenge that I would have with that is if you've got a ton of things, then you potentially have a ton of people, and that becomes more management. I use full-time virtual assistants, and I feel like you get a better bang for your buck sometimes with that. But you do have to make sure they're being productive and they're doing stuff. So if it takes you 2 hours to do it, then the expectation should be that it takes them 2 hours to do it. So they might just be over more DRIs, as you say,
right,
than somebody that would. But yeah, both ways work. And we're starting to get to the point where we've got so many VAs that we're having to get smarter about. We have executive assistants that are taking a lot of the work and they're conglomerating it into smaller reports that we don't have to check every single person. And we have people that check the people and they do audits for the people and everyone gets report cards so that we can keep up with all of the people. Because I think we have 28 now working in our 2 locations, which is a lot, but they get a lot done.
That's great.
Our 2 locations are probably more productive than 5 or 6 locations for some other people.
You can do a lot with it. At one point pre-pandemic, we had 17 people working in our office. Wow. And now we only have 4 people in-house. And our revenues are bigger than they were with the 17 people. It's mind-boggling what you can do now with automation and delegating outsourcing to offshore.
We have more actual staff that works in the office, but they just focus on patients, things that actually bring value. So our model is not necessarily to try to get rid of people. No one wants to take jobs from Americans, even though that in this situation, people feel a little less sorry for people because it's so easy to get a job these days. I don't think it's always going to be like that. And it's not like that in every country, that's for sure. But I think that augmenting them and trying to get a return on the investment. For instance, I'm a dentist. I don't clean the floors. I don't do the sterilization. I don't assist the other dentists. We have people that are paid a little bit lower to do that. I have hygienists that get paid $50 an hour. It was 35 before the pandemic, but now it's gone up 50%, 60%. maybe
Wow.
more. We don't have them doing things that we can pay someone $10 to $15 an hour to do.
Right.
And so this is just taking that and spreading it back down. It's like, what are the things that really have to be done in office? Because in dental office, we have to do a lot of things. We have patients that literally come to the door and someone has to actually do something to them.
Right. Yeah.
But it's about just spreading that out and making sure that we're getting a return on the investment. Because if we're spending $30 an hour, we can't have them doing stuff that makes more sense for a $10 an hour employee, you know?
Right. Right.
Anyways, man, I know we could probably talk for 2 more hours about all this stuff. Last time we had breakfast, you kept giving me all these ideas and stuff, but running a little short on time here. So we'll keep it brief. Plus it's Friday. So
Yeah.
I hope you have a good weekend, man.
You too.
But anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just, be smart, be efficient, and think outside the box. I hate to see businesses that go out of business because the owner got burned out or stressed out or managed their money incorrectly. So use some of the tools that Justin is sharing on this podcast, implement them, reach out to his team if you can, reach out to me, grab a copy of my book. I break down a lot of things in my book, Wealth Beyond Money, that'll help you. But I just want to see entrepreneurs succeed.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, have a good weekend. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take it easy.
All right, bye.